Welcome back to Crime Time, Inc. This time, we're going to be looking at the Westfield Bondi Junction attack in Sydney.
Right.
A seemingly ordinary Saturday afternoon that turned horrific on April 13th, 2024.
Yeah, it's striking how the perpetrator, Joel Cauchi, a 40-year-old man from Queensland, managed to blend into everyday life despite a background that, in retrospect, might have hinted at his potential for violence.
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily pick him out of a crowd.
No, no.
Described as having an itinerant lifestyle, drifting between living in his vehicles and staying in backpacker hostels, it makes you wonder, did that constant movement isolate him further? Maybe contribute to his instability?
It's certainly a factor worth considering. Isolation can exacerbate existing mental health issues, and we know that Cauchi had a long history of struggles. Diagnosed with schizophrenia at 17, police confirmed he was off his medication at the time of the attack.
That lack of stability, combined with untreated schizophrenia, it's a recipe for disaster. And it wasn't just the mental health aspect. There were other warning signs, like his intense interest in knives.
Right.
His parents even had to confiscate them from him at one point.
That's a chilling detail. And it goes further.
Yeah.
In 2020, he posted on Facebook looking for people interested in shooting guns, specifically mentioning handguns. It seems he was actively seeking out like-minded individuals, perhaps those who shared his fascination with weapons and violence.
And then there's the added layer of Cauchi's attempts to find work as an escort in the months leading up to the attack. He advertised himself online as an athletic, good-looking 39-year-old. What do we make of that?
Well, his parents mentioned that he had difficulties with women, longed for a girlfriend, but lacked the social skills to form those kind of relationships. It's possible this pursuit of escort work was a manifestation of that frustration, maybe even a desperate attempt to gain some sense of control or power.
So here we have a man struggling with mental illness, potentially feeling isolated and rejected, and with a documented interest in weapons. It's a tragic combination. Can you walk us through the timeline of the attack itself?
Certainly. On April 13th, Cauchi entered the Westfield Bondi Junction shopping center at approximately 3:00 p.m. He left briefly and returned just 10 minutes later. But this time, he was armed with a large hunting knife and wearing an Australian Kangaroos rugby league jersey.
Almost like he was preparing for battle.
That's a disturbing way to put it, but yeah, there seems to have been a deliberate shift in his demeanor. And then, without warning, he began attacking people, seemingly at random.
The sources describe the scene as absolute chaos. People fleeing in terror.
Absolutely. Security footage and videos taken by bystanders captured the sheer panic as shoppers desperately tried to escape. Amidst the chaos, there were some extraordinary acts of bravery. Two French men, Damien Garot and Silas Dupro, used bollards and chairs to try and stop Cauchi, putting themselves directly in harm's way to protect others.
Their courage is astounding. Facing someone armed with a knife like that, it's hard to fathom. And then there was Inspector Amy Scott, a lone police officer who arrived at the scene.
Inspector Scott encountered Cauchi on the 5th floor of the shopping center. Court documents show she confronted him, I think it was within just 79 seconds of arriving at the Westfield. Imagine the pressure of that situation.
It's almost unimaginable what happened next.
Cauchi lunged at Inspector Scott with the knife. She responded by firing her weapon, fatally shooting him. And then, incredibly, she immediately began performing CPR on him.
Wow, talk about going above and beyond the call of duty.
Absolutely. It's a testament to her professionalism and her commitment to preserving life, even in the face of extreme danger.
Tragically, 6 people lost their lives in the attack, and many more were injured. Can you tell us about the victims?
Of course. The victims were Dawn Singleton, a 25-year-old bride-to-be, Ashley Good, a 38-year-old mother, Jade Young, a 47-year-old architect, Cheng Yik-Suan, a 27-year-old Chinese economics student, Pikriya Darchia, a 55-year-old artist and designer, and Faraz Tahir, a 30-year-old security guard and refugee from Pakistan. Each of their stories is heartbreaking.
It's a stark reminder that these were real people with lives, families, dreams that were brutally cut short.
Exactly. Dawn Singleton, for example, had just purchased her wedding dress the week before. Ashley Good died protecting her 9-month-old daughter, Harriet.
What happened to Harriet?
She survived, thankfully, but sustained injuries to her chest and arm. She required surgery but was discharged from the hospital a few weeks later. A GoFundMe campaign set up for her raised over, I think it was $650,000, a testament to the outpouring of support from the community.
It's amazing how people rally around each other in times of tragedy.
It truly is. And this case, as you can see, is already full of complexities and contradictions, raising important questions about mental health, security, and the nature of random violence.
Absolutely. And we'll delve deeper into those questions in just a moment.
The police have been very clear, in their statements. They ruled out any ideological or terrorist motives for the attack. Their investigations point to Cauchi's mental health struggles as the primary driver.
That does seem to be the most likely explanation given what we know about his history. But it still raises so many questions. Was there anything that could have been done to prevent this? Were there missed opportunities for intervention?
Those are precisely the questions that will be explored in the upcoming coronial inquest. They'll be examining Cauchi's entire history, his interactions with police in both Queensland and New South Wales, his treatment for schizophrenia, everything. They'll also be looking at the police response to the attack itself and evaluating the effectiveness of existing mental health systems.
It sounds like a massive undertaking, but a necessary one. If we can learn from this tragedy, maybe prevent something like this from happening again.
Exactly. This case has sparked a much-needed conversation about mental health, security in public spaces, the role of law enforcement. It's touched on so many critical issues.
And there was initial speculation that Cauchi was specifically targeting women during the attack, which police have since dismissed.
Yes. Early reports, based on some of the security footage, suggested that might be the case. But the fact that he stabbed 3 men and a baby indicates that his violence was indiscriminate, driven by something other than gender-based hatred.
Cauchi's parents have spoken out, expressing their devastation and remorse for their son's actions.
They have. It's a heartbreaking situation for them. They acknowledge the police officers' justified actions while also grappling with the immense grief and guilt of what their son did.
It's a complex and painful situation for everyone involved. And this attack also brought to light some disturbing trends in online misinformation.
That's right. In the hours following the incident, there was a surge of false claims circulating online about the attacker's identity and motives. Some even wrongly accused a University of Technology Sydney student,
Adding another layer of trauma to an already horrific event.
The Islamophobia Register of Australia reported a spike in hate-related incidents following the stabbing, which they partly attributed to the spread of these false claims. It underscores how quickly misinformation can spread online, especially during times of crisis and uncertainty.
It's a reminder that we all need to be critical thinkers, especially in the digital age. We have to be careful about what we consume and share online. Verify information before accepting it as truth.
Absolutely. This tragedy also ignited debate about security measures in public spaces. Specifically, the use of weapons by security guards in places like shopping centers and hospitals came under scrutiny.
It's a complex issue. Some people argue for increased security measures, including arming guards, while others warn against the potential for escalation and unintended consequences.
It's a balancing act, weighing the potential benefits against the risks. There are no easy answers. In the immediate aftermath of the attack, Westfield Bondi Junction closed down for several days.
It must have been a difficult decision, but understandable given the circumstances.
They reopened for a community reflection day, allowing people to come together, pay their respects, and access support services. It was a powerful display of community resilience.
And then about a week after the attack, the shopping center officially reopened for business. They implemented increased security measures, including enhanced protective clothing for security personnel.
Those measures were likely intended to provide reassurance and restore a sense of safety for shoppers and employees. Though it's understandable that people might still feel uneasy returning to a place where such a traumatic event occurred.
Absolutely. Beyond the practical measures, there were countless tributes pouring in for the victims, flowers, shared stories, vigils. It was truly touching to see.
Those acts of remembrance are vital. They allow us to grieve collectively, celebrate the lives of those we've lost, and offer support to their families.
And there was also an outpouring of gratitude for the heroes of that day, the individuals who confronted the attacker, Inspector Scott who stopped him, the first responders, the medical professionals who worked tirelessly to save lives.
Their bravery and selflessness deserve our deepest respect. They embody the very best of humanity, even in the face of unimaginable horror.
This case has had such a profound impact on the community, sparking crucial conversations about mental health, security, the role of bystanders in emergencies.
It's forced us to confront uncomfortable truths about our society and hopefully to work towards creating a safer, more compassionate world.
It's a reminder that even in the face of immense tragedy, there's still hope, courage, and compassion to be found.
Couldn't agree more. The Bondi Junction attack was a devastating event. but it also demonstrated the power of community, resilience, and the human spirit's ability to find light in the darkness.
It's a powerful message to carry with us. It makes you think about all the people who were there that day and just saw it happen.
The ripple effect, you mean?
Yeah, like the impact it has on everyone, not just the immediate victims and families, but all the people who saw it happen, the people who had to respond.
Absolutely, it goes far beyond. We often focus on the direct casualties, but the psychological trauma resonates outwards. Like you said, the witnesses, the first responders dealing with the aftermath.
Even people like us, we weren't there. But reading these reports and watching the footage, it's just unsettling.
Exactly. It shatters our sense of safety, in everyday life. And that's why it's so important to acknowledge this wider impact. We need to provide support, not just for those directly involved, but for the community as a whole.
What would that support look like?
Well, it can take many forms: trauma-informed counseling, community outreach programs, public awareness campaigns to address, the mental and emotional toll.
That makes sense.
And this is where responsible media coverage is crucial too. Avoiding sensationalism, prioritizing facts, offering resources for support, all of that contributes to healing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a huge responsibility for journalists to inform, but also to be mindful of the impact their reporting has on those affected by tragedy. And then there's the need for open dialogue, community engagement. By sharing stories, expressing grief, offering support, we can rebuild a sense of security and resilience.
It's really about fostering empathy and understanding.
Precisely. Recognizing our interconnectedness. These events, while horrific, can be catalysts for positive change. They can inspire us to be more compassionate, more vigilant, more committed to safer, more supportive communities.
It's hard to find that silver lining when you're faced with such a senseless tragedy, but I guess you're right. There's always hope for some good to come out of even the darkest situations.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The Bondi Junction attack was devastating, but it also demonstrated the power of courage, compassion, and community. It reminds us that even in the darkest times, there's hope to be found in human kindness and resilience.
This is a really disturbing case for Simon and Tom to talk about in their weekly review show tomorrow, but in the meantime, we'll be back on Monday for another great true crime episode.